Greetings, ladies and gentle readers. I'm Dwyer, and I was just recently asked a very interesting question. What series should you get into after Harry Potter, assuming you don't want to simply reread Harry Potter? A good question. Whether you've reread it 1,000 times before, you just grew out of it, you're tired of it. I don't know. Maybe you just hate the abbreviations HP. Whatever your reasons happen to be, that right there is actually a very good question. What should you get into after Harry Potter? Well, let me tell you, the individual who asked this question apparently received a lot of really bad, bad suggestions. So I think the first thing we're going to do in terms of answering this question is try to figure out if you want to if you want to read something with this sort of feel to it, let's figure out what that feel even is. What is this series? What made this series feel like this series? So you know what we're looking for in other series if we want to read a series that's like this, but just absolutely not. Well, I think the first thing you notice immediately is that it's a coming of age tale. So whatever we're looking for next, it should have, or at least it should be considered maybe to be something similar, maybe a coming of age tale, because you can't argue Harry was a little bit of a tyke and then he grew up theoretically. Depending on his actions, mileage may vary on that one, but yeah, eventually he grew up. Cool. So, bam. Probably looking for a coming of age tale. What else made Harry Potter Harry Potter? Well, I think having a magic system is probably going to be important. I mean, that's kind of important, right? You know, wizards and witches and things like that. But more importantly, because so many things out there are coming of age tales, so many books out there do have magic systems. But what made Harry Potter interesting was it was easy to follow. Like if someone, for example, suddenly shouted Avada Kedavra or whatever, you know what they just cast. Yeah, you kind of knew what happened. You didn't have to like pick up an appendices and just like scroll back through like 1,000 different entries and be like, all right, what was that spell again? I can't quite remember. Oh, right, it killed someone. Got it. I figured it out. No, it was despite magic being, pretty common, and you enter a world, I should say, where magic is pretty common. If someone used a spell, you had a pretty good idea of what was used, so you were able to follow along and you weren't like taken out of the story every time, magic was in fact used. So I would say a simple magic system that's easy to follow is probably up there as a very important thing if we're trying to find a story in the similar vein. Let's see. What else? What else? What else? Oh, I mean, immediately there's a school, right? That's pretty important. Good old HP, there was Hogwarts. But more than just a school, it was a very fleshed out school. Like you could tell even when the main characters weren't there, it still existed. It was still doing its own thing. It wasn't just more or less a prop to get the characters from point A to point B. It seemed like they were in a living, breathing place with its own history, its own uniqueness. Hogwarts felt like Hogwarts. Now, I don't think that's completely a must, but it's important that there's good world building in that sense. Where the characters are in a story have to feel like it's a unique place for them to be in a story, and that area needs to be there even if the main characters aren't there. Does that make sense? I think that's a very vital part of this series, and if we're finding one like it definitely needs, at the very least, if not a school, it needs good world building. At at the very least, it needs good world building to hold it up. Let's see, what else do we have? Ooh, obvious one. Yeah, Dark Lord. In this one, obviously, you got Voldemort, right? He was. I'm gonna go ahead and say he was a Dark Lord. I mean, it was like a children's Dark Lord. I mean, the series is for children, obviously. So he was a Dark Lord, but his followers did stupid, goofy things like, "Ooh, we're evil. Look, because I'm throwing you up in the air," kind of things. But sure, there's like an evil antagonist. All right, so after the Dark Lord, um, oh, the series is not a solo act. Yeah, there were three main characters, right? You got Harry, Ron, and Hermione in this one. It wasn't just, Harry going, I am super strong and I cast all the spells and I do all the things. And everybody else is just there to admire how cool and awesome I am. Right? Definitely not wish fulfillment in that sense. All of the women in the school weren't just like drooling over Harry. So he's not a solo act. It's not wish fulfillment. This next one, I don't know. There's kind of factions in there, right? Because within the whole world building and the school that they're into in this one, there was like the various houses, and even though, they're not fighting to the death or whatever, it's still a unique thing that you definitely can't, you just can't not notice. But factions, I think, really goes back into world building. I don't think a book that you recommend next to answer the question of what should you read next if you want to read something in the same lines of this. I don't think it has to have factions, but I think it would probably help. Let's see, another obvious one was it did have magical creatures. But again, that's another one of those that I don't think has to be there. I think you could still remove the magical creatures from Harry Potter, and I don't know what you would turn Dobby into or whatever, but yeah, it would absolutely still work. It'd be a little bit more difficult, but it seemed like the magical creatures was a nice spice to add to the story that was being told, and it wasn't like hard relying on it to tell the story. Oh, this one has to be said because a lot of authors are going down into this vein lately, right? It definitely wasn't Game of Thrones in terms of feel. Like, you didn't have the characters in Harry Potter obviously just dropping dead for no reason. Like, Voldemort wasn't secretly banging Harry's sister, and at the end of the series, you didn't find out that Harry was like the secret love child of Dumbledore and Dobby or something. So, no weird, crazy twists like that where everyone's like getting with everyone and or else just being put to death. Right? So, definitely not that. Definitely not that. All right. So I think that's a good list of what we're looking for in another series. And right away, a few of them pop into mind. Nightmare Arcanist from Shami Stovall is definitely one that pops up as a runner-up. I think this is a really, really, really good second place because it ticks so many of the boxes that we're looking for. Is it a coming-of-age tale? Yes, it absolutely is. The main character of Volk here is the one who also, magic system, is going to be learning magic. And it's also very, very unique because the magic system in Nightmare Arcanist over here, which is a completely finished series, by the way, called the Frith Chronicles. But in this one, instead of an individual student just learning spells and what have you, the individual's magic is tied to a magical creature, which checks another one of our boxes, and whatever magical creature they're bonded to determines essentially what their abilities are going to be. So you have some cutesy ones like unicorns and what have you, and you also have kind of what you're seeing over here as well, where you've also got like these phoenixes and the creatures of nightmare, essentially. And you kind of learn based on what the creature is, what to expect in terms of the abilities from the practitioner who is assigned to said creature. Now, where does he learn to use those abilities? Well, sure enough, he has to go to school to learn how to use the good old abilities. So that is fantastic. So we're checking coming of age, we're checking a rather robust magic system. World building, the place he goes to feels like it is a place that he is going to. I don't want to give away too many spoilers because some of these you don't learn for other books, but the place he goes to is definitely unique in what it can do. He's not a solo act. He's got friends, his own little Hermione and Ron, who are kind of there with him. I'm not sure if we hit up the factions one though, and it's kind of what takes it from, really being first recommend. Yeah, I don't think we really have factions. It is also definitely not Game of Thronesy. It's a bit lighter in that respect. There's not an overarching Dark Lord that they have to, rise above and conquer, but you are aware of various issues he's going to be tackling, and you are going to be wondering how he's going to get up over that. And it's usually not going to be just because he's just so darn powerful. It's usually relying on other people, using his good old smarty smarts. So the battles are enjoyable to read. Seeing how he overcomes various obstacles are also a joy to read. Yeah, I can see why here, even in this little blurb, it says, yeah, good fun, perfect for those who enjoyed the Harry Potter series. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And as an added bonus, if you do wind up enjoying that one, he's also got another series that he's currently going with in the same universe with the exact same system that we've been mentioning above. And you can dive into that one. So there's a lot there for you to enjoy. That said, first place, in my opinion, has got to go to Arcane, the Arinthian Line series. I think this absolutely best matches of anything I've come across, the whole feeling of the Harry Potter universe, though I would say it's more for an older crowd. This says ages 8 and up. And though people aren't, getting killed left, right, and center, I will say you kind of got to be a little careful because there are some people who do wind up dying throughout the series. It's not Game of Thronesy in that respect. They're not dying just for kicks. You do care about the few characters who do, unfortunately, not make it to the end of the series. And their deaths typically have a lot of value. It is a coming of age tale, so it checks our first box because you've got young. Wait, I was about to call him by his last name. I think in the first book we learn his last name. Okay, I don't really remember when we learn certain things, so for now I'm just going to say we do learn that good old Ogham, and he's got friends, Bridget and Lyra, just like Harry had friends, Ron and Hermione. They are learning magic. There is a magic system. It doesn't use what we just previously talked about with the magical creatures, but just like Harry Potter, if someone's using a spell, you really, really quickly know what spell they're using and what that's going to be doing. Because in this world, the magic system is completely chronicled. Like the different categories of, not difficulty, but the different difficulties of spells are very well regulated, and There is a system of progression throughout the magical world that is easily noticed, and it's expected that at certain progress points, someone can or cannot use certain spells. So if you see someone use a spell, or if you hear someone use a spell, you instantly know about where they are in the progress point, so you know how dangerous they are because they were able to use this kind of thing. But it all merges very seamlessly into the story. It's also part of what makes for good world building, because you have all of these things that you're rooting for the character to actually progress through. You want them to get the next stripe, for example, so they can start tackling harder spells. If they're against someone using a very recognizable spell that they haven't learned yet, you know that there is some tension there. That is also a very, very, very important one that should be on this list. There is a series of there is like a sense of tension throughout the series. There is also part of the world building an academy in this particular series. Though it should be noted that in the Arinthian line itself, they don't attend. Now here's what makes this one very, very interesting. Because Severbrani has 3 different series now. 2 of them are fully complete in this world. In this initial one, it is the equivalent of Harry personally being tutored by Dumbledore while looking forward to the day where they can attend Hogwarts. That's essentially what we have here. So we don't go, I don't think we ever go to the actual academy in this initial series. You do in the next one. But throughout the series, you're hearing like more and more about it. You're learning more about its past. So by the end of the series, you're looking forward to him finally being able to attend this legendary institution that you've been hearing about for the last 5 books. So it's built up very, very nicely. Now you might be saying, why can't he attend the academy? Well, it's because there is a Dark Lord, just like in Harry Potter. But unlike in Harry Potter, this Dark Lord really, really means business. And that's why I kind of say, not sure if it's really for 8 years and up. Because this Dark Lord won't just like lift you up in the air or like tweak your nose or whatever. If you're against him, he will kill you and then raise you back to life and use you in his army. Enjoy that. Yeah, there's a full-on war out, and it really feels like it because it's not safe, or it's not felt like it's actually safe to attend for some people, let's just say, to actually attend that academy right now because it's firmly under the grips of that Dark Lord. And that person isn't going to just be like, no, he'll kill you immediately and use you as a slave. Now, there is one teensy-weensy little thing that I will spoil, which is just like Harry Potter, the 3 characters in this, Bridget, Lyra, and good old Ogham over here, don't become more powerful than the evil Dark Lord, just as Harry doesn't really become more powerful and more knowledgeable than Voldemort at the end, and just use that like overwhelming strength to vanquish evil. No. Once again, it's something that he needs to, call on his allies for. He has to use his brain. He's got to set up the battlefield properly, like all a bunch of different things that he's learning to do over the course of, the 5 books comes together in the last one. And even going through that, there are consequences. He doesn't always get what he's doing right. The 3 of them do make mistakes. The equivalent of Dumbledore does make mistakes. And when they do make the mistakes, occasionally people do wind up dead because of it. Or in interest of like furthering his cause, occasionally people will sacrifice themselves to get him out of a position that he found himself in. So I would say it's very much a Harry Potter-like series for a much more grown-up crowd, even though it is a coming-of-age tale. Now, there aren't really magical creatures in this one. That has a little bit of an asterisk to it because there are some magical local things that I won't mention that do play a very, very huge role in this particular series. There are factions because the wizards tend to go down a particular element. They're sympathetic to an element, whether it's fire, lightning, fire, lightning, ice. I forget all the others off the top of my head, but you kind of are in with that clique once your element has been discovered, because you're more likely to understand wizards who, match their element and how they've been trying to tackle their element than others who don't really know like the ins and outs of fire, for example. It sounds a little strange, but it does work out in the end. Either way, for all of these reasons and more, I heavily recommend this one because this, again, is very, very, very Harry Potter-like. The second series that comes after that, Burden's Edge, the Fury of a Rising Dragon series, is him at the Academy. That's even more Harry Potter-like. Both of those series are completely finished. And last but not least, if you still want more in this universe, Sever Brawny's got you covered with the Chronicles of Anna Atticus Stone in Prodigy of Thunder, which essentially is the equivalent of reading about Dumbledore as he attended Hogwarts, more or less. More or less. So this series has it all. It's what you're looking for, hands down, without a doubt, if you are looking for a Harry Potter-like series that is not Harry Potter. Check out Sever Brawny's writing. I do not think you will find a more spiritual successor than these particular books. Give them a try. No reason not to. I'm looking over here right away at book one on book one Arcane here, and I can see if you've got Amazon Prime, it's literally free to read with your Amazon Prime subscription, so you can check it out and see if you like it or not. So since it might be free for many of you, along with all the reasons I stated, go ahead and check it out. Do yourself a favor. Think you're really gonna like it. If you do, come back, let me know in the comments down below, and as always, I will see you next time. Happy reading, everyone.